everybody. Today's video is a driving collab. Well, it's not about driving, but it's a collab that I'm doing while I'm driving. This collab was brought to you by a mama in YouTube Mommy Meetup, so check out all the mommies down below. They are participating in it, and it is 5 tips for a happy marriage / relationship. Disclaimer, I am not an expert. I do not have a degree in marriage and family therapy. I do have a bachelor's in psychology, but that's neither here nor there. And my relationship is not perfect. I have one 6-year-old, one 3-year-old. Me and my husband have been married for 8 years. Prior to getting married, we were together for 6 years. So altogether, we've been together for what? 8 + 6 is 14 years. I did not put makeup on today. I am au naturel in it. So yes, we've been together for 14 years. I met him when I was 19. Well, met is kind of not really true. I met him in high school. We went to the same high school together. Our lockers were actually 1 locker away from each other, but he graduated a year before me, and me and him were otherwise involved in high school. So even though we had met, I mean, we knew who each other were. We weren't really friends. We were acquaintances. So we were acquaintances in high school, but we met again my freshman year of college over the summer. He was a customer at my dad's comic book store, because my dad had a comic book store that he owned and my brother ran for him at the time. He actually just sold it not too long ago, so he actually had it for a long time as it's like a hobby, but he also had a comic book store that he ran. But anyway, so we met there again, and I had just gotten out of my high school relationship. I had already had a rebound, and he was just a guy that I was hanging out with and was friends with because I was lonely and didn't have a license. But anyways, 14 years later, here we are, and I consider us to have a pretty good relationship. Certainly not perfect, you know. So here we go, 5 tips. I don't know if this is gonna be 5, but I'm driving, so we'll see. First tip, always try to assume positive intent. Now, what does that mean? That means if your husband says, you look beautiful today, don't assume that his intent is to get something out of you or to butter you up for something. Just assume he's saying that because he loves you. If your husband tells you that he'd like to go grocery shopping for you, just assume that he's doing that out of the kindness of his heart. If your husband says he's got to work late, assume that he's got to work late and not that he doesn't want to come home and be with you and blah, 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 blah. Now, it sounds easy, but it's not. I mean, I think in life, the more, where am I going? I'm going to go this way. The more that you can assume people's positive intent, the better your life will be, the more happy person you'll be, the more positive person you can be. Because, like, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you know, instead of assuming that they're an asshole, sorry, instead of assuming that they're not a very nice person, assume that they are, and maybe they made a mistake or they're in a hurry. So, I don't always do this. I have to remind myself to do this, but search for positive intent. Works with you, works with kids, works with husbands. So that's what I try to remind myself to do, to stay positive and assume that people have positive intent. Now, this isn't, you know, a free pass for all people in your life. You know, you have to obviously, you know, if they're not treating you right, then they're not treating you right. But a lot of the times the bickering and the fights and all that can be solved by just having positive intent, assuming that your husband has positive intentions instead of negative ones. Because I know sometimes I can get in a negative mood, and even if he just comes up and gives me a kiss, I'm like, ugh. So it's best to try not to do that. Anyways, this is already 5 minutes, so that's long. That's gonna be too long, so let's go. All right, number 2, I would say to have interests outside of each other. So have your own hobbies that the other person may not be involved in. Have your own friends that the other person may not be involved in. As a stay-at-home mom, you know, I don't work, so I don't have that outlet where I'm not with my husband or my kids. So I make sure that I have hobbies like YouTube or Disney and also that I have friends that I can go out with in the evenings once in a while, or hang out with during the day if they're stay-at-home moms as well. Just having interests other than the other person is important to maintaining happy relationships. Number 3 is spend time with them. I think sometimes couples just get in a rut and they don't spend time with each other. You know, make that special time with each other to sit down and snuggle, or go out to dinner, or, you know, you can have a date right there in your house. You know, put the kids to bed, and once they're in bed, just have a date in your house. Make a nice dinner, or get some takeout, or plan to watch a movie together. So just making it a point to setting those times aside for each other. Now I had some more written down and I'm driving, so this is hard. So I know that number 4 is make sure you spend physical time with your husband. It's very important. You know, I know how my husband feels loved and appreciated is through the physical. It's just the way it is. It's the way he is. It's the way a lot of men are, and some women are. You know, I feel appreciated through the hugs and snuggles and kisses, and he feels appreciated and loved through sex, and that's just the way it is. And I think a lot of couples and a lot of women, they just lose interest in sex, especially when they have little tiny children at home. So I think that's important. You know, make that a priority in your life to be physical with your husband. Because there have been times in my life where honestly, I could take it or leave it, but I still make it a priority to be physical with my husband. And I know that's a touchy subject, but you know, I think you've got to make it a point to do it. And I think the less that you do it, the less you want it a lot of the times. So, you know, if you can be physical with your husband, even at those times where maybe your interest is not quite so much, that it just helps your relationship, and it may make you more interested in it in the future. So I just think that's so important. You know, I mean, if it was important to you in your relationship when you first got together, or, you know, when you first got married, then it's still important now, and it's something that needs to be worked on and addressed. Okay, so I am stopped now, and I got a chance to look at my list. So one last thing that I recommend doing, or not doing as the case may be, is don't talk to other people about your relationship. Now, everyone needs to vent sometimes, and that's fine. But, you know, you want to be aware of the perception you're putting out of your husband or your spouse to other people, especially your family. Because if you're only talking to them about the negative things the spouse is doing, then your family might just have a negative perception of them, and it might damage their relationship with the person that you're talking with. And you don't want to do that, because, you know, I think we rarely talk about the positive things someone does in our lives, and we often just talk about the negative. So if you're always complaining about the person, then it's going to be damaging to them, and it's going to be damaging to your relationship. So it's just not a good idea. I'm not saying never vent, just make a conscious effort to be aware of what you're doing. I mean, yes, when my friends and I get together at night, we bitch about our husbands. Now, I don't as much as others. I'm not saying I never do. I definitely do. I just think that it can be damaging. So just be aware of that. Have those discussions with your spouse, and try not to only vent to other people, because it's just not a good idea. And if you need help and you need to vent, try a therapist. I am a big proponent of therapy. If you need help with your relationship or with your own life, find a therapist that you like and that you can vent to, and that can give you unbiased advice from someone who's not involved with your life personally, whether you and your spouse will go together or you just go. I think therapy can be a great thing. Especially if you have really good insurance, which I don't. But seek help from someone who has an unbiased opinion and is a third party in the situation. I think can always be a good idea. So as I mentioned below, this is a collab. Thank you to Destiny Goins for having this idea and starting to put this collab together. So check out those videos and links in the playlist down below. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, like and subscribe. Comments down below are appreciated. Maybe you have some other ideas of what makes marriage go easier, and for having a good relationship with your spouse, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.